My name is Rena Large, and I'm a program manager for the Early Childhood Funders Collaborative. And I just wanted to welcome you today. We're so pleased to be hosting this conversation with the Funders for Family Leadership, and to have the funder and parent co-creators of the self-reflection tool with us. This year, ECFC completed a new 5-year strategic plan, and advancing racial equity and justice in early childhood is one of the key pillars of our plan. And we know that that includes building trust and sharing power and having authentic relationships with grantees and parents and families. And so today's discussion is part of our exploration for creating authentic partnerships. And with that, I will turn it over to Rose from the United Parent Leaders Action Network to get us started.
Thank you so much, Raina, and welcome to everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us as we help understand and advance FFL, and I'm an acronym breaker. So FFL stands for Family Funders Leaderships. Nope, I didn't say that right. I'm sorry, I'm tongue-tied today. Funders Family Leadership Partnership, and it's with parents. It's been hosted by the Funders for Family Leadership Network and Early Childhood Funders Collaboration, which is ECFC. My name is Rose. I'm so pleased to be joined today by my U-Plan partners. We have with us Sarah Morrison and Muna Hussein, as well as our amazing funder partners from Funders for Family Leaders, Marguerite Alvarez and Mike White. Thank you guys for joining me today. So we're gonna dive right in. We're so excited to have you all here for what should be an open discussion and learning experience for everyone is the hope. You are welcome to raise your hand or drop in the chat. If you have questions, we will have a place for you to upload those. But if you prefer to share your questions in the chat, please do so as well. Our partners at Viva Social Impact Partners and ECFC will also be monitoring the chat for your questions, so that we'll have a chance to lift those further in the conversation when we have our question and answer period. Please don't hesitate to ask throughout the chat feature. Okay, so I want to dive right into this, and I guess everyone's question is, so what is the self-reflection tool? And how can this tool be used? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. The self-reflection tool started with FFL and their own experience, not knowing where to start and figuring out the parent partnership. And that journey became a little challenging as a result. And they started to think about what's the best practice, or what things can we be doing better, and realizing that the funders across the board are likely to have some of these similar thoughts and some of these similar challenges. They decided they wanted to not only help themselves, but help everyone think differently. So in 2020, FFL, in partnership with Viva, and in partnership with U-Plan, United Parent Leaders Action Network, decided to work on creating a self-reflection tool using some already present resources. They didn't want to reinvent the wheel, but also asking other participants and parents by way of interviews and by way of conversation about their own experiences. And funders in turn also interviewed to express their experiences. What were some of the high points and what were some of the challenges as a result of their interactions and partnerships with the folks that they funded? this was always intended to be a living, breathing document, which means we want to continue to grow, continue to learn, continue to move it forward, continue to figure out what those best practices are along the way. And as a result, the goal has been to have as many funders using this tool and as many parents constantly contributing to the experience, always making improvements, always helping us grow and flourish in this. Now, it's made up of 4 domains. Those domains are learning and innovation, internal organizational practice, influence, and catalyze impact. Now, our hope is that users will be able to choose which ones work best for them or that they need a little work on. They can look at one or they can look at some, or if you need to look at all of them to make those changes and improvements that your organization wants to see, so be it. We use the tool for guiding internal reflection. It's not a one and done. It's not an end all be all. It's not a formal mandate or assessment, but it's a discussion. It's a mechanism for reflection and for encouraging a discussion that will help your organization and partnerships to flourish and go so everyone wins, everyone meets their goals, funders and grantees. Each domain includes specific practices that could be explored and also showcases quotes and experiences from parents and funders interviewed to help bring the domains to life and help bring the practice ideas to life. So without any further ado, I am so excited to invite, first of all, I want to invite Mike and Muna to share their brief stories of their parent and funder partnership and how this journey unfolded for them. Mike?
Sure. Thank you so much, Rose. And I have been told I only have 4 minutes, so we'll see how I do with keeping to that. I'm not sure I can do it, folks, but thank you again, Rose. Yes, I am Mike White. I use he, him pronouns. I'm very happy to be with everyone today, and I am with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation's Healthy Children and Families team. I am also a former advisory committee member for Funders for Family Leadership. And I really came to philanthropy from the grantee side of things. And I've always really tried to keep an awareness of just how wrong philanthropy can go when we don't include the perspectives of folks with whom we're impacting with our grant dollars. And I think I was very much that token, well-meaning white guy running around in communities that were not my own, trying to tell people what they should be organizing around. And I want to make sure that that's not the reality of philanthropy future. So hopefully, I think that this tool is actually a really great tool for doing that. And something really weird I did to get ready for this was I actually asked this new artificial intelligence app called ChatGPT why it's important to incorporate parent leadership into our work. And I can tell you all with some really eerie degree of certainty that it gave me a lot of the reasons that you all would probably give me and the reasons that I would probably give you on why we're trying to do this work. I then asked it how we would do this work. How do we go about incorporating family and parent leadership into our work? And I got pretty much digital crickets. So if you're worried about robots coming for your jobs in this kind of work, you really don't need to be. Like we are pretty set. And I think that's why this tool is so important. It came to us at RWJF on Healthy Children and Families at a time where we were starting to realize that for what we wanted to do to be authentic to our principles around being proximal to the families and parents around the country that we wanted to be true, we knew that there probably wasn't really a roadmap. As much as we love roadmaps in philanthropy, there probably wasn't a roadmap to get where we wanted to go. But we really used this tool as an incredible place to sort of give us a starting block, to really help us map out what we already knew about our strengths, about what our practices were. And I think it really helped us get out of one of philanthropy's tendencies, which is to really aggressively focus on programming when what you actually need to focus on is the systems and structures by which you do your work, sort of the how of what you're doing with your philanthropy. And one thing that we knew that we needed to do was to create a sort of family advisory committee. We knew that we had to get more proximate to the community, to the families and to the communities that we were doing our work. But as a national philanthropy, we were constantly being told that the traditional dogma was that it just couldn't be done, that it would be overly burdensome, that it would be too much of an impossibility logistically, that we wouldn't be able to find the right folks. And rather than just accept this sort of implicit no, this tool gave us a bunch of really specific questions we could ask that focused on very specific organizational practices at RWJF that led us to actually realize that we could do this work. We just were not having sort of the institutional will to do it in the way we wanted to. And over the next few years, again, I think like Rose said, that was in 2020, we really started spending time preparing for new ways that we wanted to work, figuring out what new power dynamics we were ready to sort of experiment with and how we wanted to try and partner with parents in new ways at the foundation. And we really, a huge shout out to Funders for Family Leadership, because we very much copy and pasted a lot of the homework from our friends at regional and local foundations that had already been doing this. While other national foundations were saying this was an impossibility, they were saying this was an inevitability, a necessity for us to do our work. And we really respected that, and we chose to believe them. And in 2022, 2 years later now, we contracted with a group called Advocacy and Communication Solutions. Huge shout out to them, who really worked with us to help expand our network of caregivers, of parent organizers, and of parent leaders to help do exactly that, to help us create a National Family Advisory Committee. And I am so excited to say that with the help of UPlan and many of the fabulous parent leaders there who helped us look at our approach and craft our approach, and craft even what this Family Advisory Committee would be helping us work on, including these very fabulous parent leaders on this call, Rose, Muna, and Sarah. So we were actually able to do this. We now have had, I think, 3 meetings, and it might be 4. I just got back from vacation, folks, so apologies if I'm 1 meeting behind. But I think we've now had 12. We've had 4 meetings of 12 parent family advisory members from around the country who are helping us shape all sorts of things. They're helping us conceptualize programming. They're helping us work on communications work. They're helping us review applications. They're working with us to design RFPs. They're helping work on strategy with us. And they're, yes, ultimately working on programming and evaluation. And I know I'm probably going over, but the very last thing I want to say is that we are doing some really exciting evaluation work with a fabulous firm called Informing Change now, who is helping us really understand what practices we're seeing shift within ourselves, within RWJF, within philanthropy, that are allowing parent leadership to flourish and are allowing our partner grantees to flourish. And we're really sort of putting the onus on us, knowing that our actions can support or hinder parent leadership in really profound ways, and not just sort of what we're programming for, but how we're doing it. So I would love to speak a lot more in the question and answers about what that looks like, but I'm going to pass it on now before I go.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you for sharing that valuable information. Now, Muna, I quickly want to jump to you. Talk a little bit about the role you played in finding the families for the Family Advisory Group, or anything you want to share about this process in developing the toolkit.
Hello, everyone. My name is Muna Hussein. I'm joining you from Seattle, Washington. I am a parent leader with UPlan, and really, it was adventure. It was kind of we cannot just say anything doesn't go smoothly, but it was adventure. But to know we can work together, we can learn from each other. I always say we are not only the parents, because we are all parents, most of us, but we wear the hats of that. That's our professional. We speak as a parent and we advocate as a parents. And when we start this conversation and this journey and did the interviews and find what we always knew, and also move to the foundations, who was really also in many cases just opening our eyes and tell us also their concerns, what they're struggling with, what they're doing wrong, and admitting many of them. this tool created, but also relationships created. And it was, we know, and still, Mike is this voice for a change, but in many cases, we only know that face, but we don't know the foundations. Is it behind them? Are they also, practicing what this this young man or woman is advocating for and passionate about it? And when Robert Wood Johnson Foundation reached UBLAN and say we are creating this family advisory group, but there is a firm who is going to be the consultants, which is really amazing. It's like organization who's going to work with parents, but at the same time, this is the proposal. Check if that is as a balance, if there is something not right, if if they can practically do this work, if we can have the partnership with them, and that gives us really another level of understanding. If we all practice what we're saying, and we really we will move faster and better. And then we check me and Zara becomes group to look the proposal, to give the feedback. If that's a language where you can talk to say to a parent, if that's how to approach them. It was really for me, I appreciate it because I felt like they were not asking us. They did not say, we want you because we know you to be the parent leaders. It was like, we are higher, getting a group of parents around this country, and we need your feedback. What do you think? And that's really was, it's something I can't wait to see and know those, that group who's working with you and what they're coming up with, and how they can support you to support the communities, different communities this organization supports you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike and Mona. So now we want to kind of move to a couple of questions. Let me see if we have any posted questions from the audience. Okay, if not, I want to ask this. This seems to be a popular question oftentimes. What advice would you give to a foundation that is just starting out, or that is just trying to build relationships with their parent grantees, or are trying to wrap their heads around how they would even start to use such a tool? Mike, what do you think about that?
I would say build in time to ask the parent leaders how it's going. I mean, we have found, I think I've found that folks are not shy at telling us how we're doing. If we are, if we're like now that we're really deeply invested with our family advisory committee, like we have had to work with our finance team, our legal team, with a lot of other folks to really make sure that this sort of stands up. It's not just like a programming team thing. So I would say, first of all, listen to your parent leaders, because they are not going to be shy. And second of all, make sure that your whole team is ready for the conversation, and maybe even that your whole team is present for the conversation, or as many folks as possible, or that you're sort of in really close communication with them, because that's really, I have found that we really hit our biggest, deepest discussions when we're talking about things like, why can't we, pay folks right away, or what is it about our size or about what we're doing that makes it more difficult to give folks this much lead time, or to honor them in this certain way. So really making sure that everyone is sort of on board on your side and ready to start, pretty rapidly, not pretty rapidly, but, really making some real-time changes.
Thank you, Mike. I love your passion. Mona, I want to shift to you for a moment. While we know the focus on today's discussion is on funders learning how to use this tool and work with their parent grantees, But we also know that relationships are bi-directional. Both folks have to be partakers and invested. What are some things that you as a parent and have worked with this particular entity have learned from funders?
I think personally, I think I have advantages because I came from a place where there is no power dynamic from the president to in my culture, we don't have that. But the most difficult thing is somebody who has that resources, that power, that money, it is never equal, unless you really are intentionally creating that space for that balance. It's always going to be off, but to acknowledge that on the spot, it will create relationships and between the two groups who is needed each other and working together. And I think that's what I would say.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. One last question, and both of you guys can tackle this a little bit. Outside of your individual foundations or the foundations that fund you in particular or that you fund, you've built a partnership together between FFL and UPlan. What learnings have you found from that experience, and what was effective in cultivating the authenticity within those relationships or within that partnership? What's the one thing that stood out?
I think for us, it's this, that we need to have our ducks in a row, and we are not trying to waste anyone's time. I think we in philanthropy have a tendency to sort of speak in a very sort of theoretical way about a lot of things when we may not actually be ready to work on things in a very practical and tangential way. Parent leaders are not like that. So if you don't have an idea that's really going to be transformational, if there's no there, it's going to be smoked out really quickly. So make sure that you really have a real ask, and that you're really trying to make sustainable and transformational change, because I think otherwise it's very easy to tell when folks are not. I've learned that.
I would add also to the side of the parent leaders, we felt the respect also from foundations of and also the willingness of admitting that they don't know. They really need more support, more understanding. Sometimes it's like misunderstanding and miscommunication. So that is, as long as we sit together and talk with each other, it doesn't matter where we start with, we grow together. So I think that's also something I felt like to be with Mike and many others for this long.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you, Mike and Muna, so much for sharing and for being transparent. I want to invite Margarita and Sarah, and I want you to share a brief story of your experience with the Parent Funder Partnership building.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Margarita Alvarez, and I work for a small family foundation in Hamden, Connecticut. And our mission at the William Casper Graustein Memorial Fund is to achieve equity in education by working with those affected and inspiring all to end racism and poverty. Now, just to add to the conversation a little bit, I've been part of the FFL group, which we changed the name, by the way. It had a really long name, and with the parents' help, we were able to change the name, changed our values. We were together co-creating. So I've been in the group since 2019, and my first meeting was at the Unity Summit in Seattle, where we were all meeting, and we decided that we needed to bring parents into the conversation. And in that meeting, we had the VPAC consultant as the facilitator, and we decided that strategically, we need to plan, how do we partner with parents? So how do we bring parents to the table? And we created a partnership with UPlan, FFL, and Viva, the consultant. I think that that's a very important piece that a lot of people don't talk about, is the facilitating, and how Viva stepped in and was able to live into our values as well, and really value the lived experiences and what the parents had to say. So I think that that was a very valuable piece as well. And so as the group continued, we decided, you know what, we're all learning, let's create a learning community. So we created a learning community with the funders and the parents so that we can learn together. Together, we decided that we should create a tool that could be useful, have interviews. We were able to create all of this throughout this period of time. And it's been a great, fulfilling experience for myself. But as a funder, what we were very intentional on doing was creating a space where we were building relationships with the parents. So we were very intentional. First, let's build the relationship. That is like, hi, how you're doing? Let's build some trust before we can create the work. So we really took the time to do that. And that's why it takes such a long time. And then after a while of being in the group, we give each other the space and we're able to co-create. And then it's been lovely, actually. It's been one of the most fulfilling experiences for me as a program officer, to be in this group and watch it floor and see what came out of it. Yeah, so and to add more to the conversation, we as a foundation, the way that we use the tool, because we didn't use the entire tool, and of course it didn't change all of our practices, but it did validate some of the things that we were doing. For example, we're very intentional about doing things differently, being in relationship with our grantee partners and being in conversation with them and creating that space. So being able to share that with the parents during the interviews, and them validating that that's what works was great for us as a foundation. So we decided to use the tool internally just as a conversation starter. We haven't used the entire tool completely, but we have been able to start conversations like internally within the program team, within the full staff, and even at the board level about a theory of change. And we learned that we could use the tool in different ways. Sarah, do you want to talk anything about our experience together at the
So I have a lot to say, so I'm going to be like Mike. I hope I don't overdo, because I like to talk a lot, especially about things that I'm passionate about. And this self-reflection tool that Muna, myself, and Rose were afforded the opportunity to work with when we were called on by the funders, we were really shocked and surprised, because a lot of times, as you've heard in the beginning, we didn't feel like our thoughts or our struggles were valued. Our voices were being heard. And all of a sudden, here were these group of funders who came across and said, hey, we need your help, and it's like Muna said, it was like, wow, they realized that they needed the help. And Mike said it too, that they couldn't do it without the parents. And that's strange. In case you don't know, for a lot of grassroots organizations and the parents and organizations on the ground that are doing the work, because there's always been that power dynamic that Muna mentioned, that a lot of times that when we were even doing the interviews, a lot of our parents with their organizations were afraid to even, like, they wanted to talk, but they didn't want their name mentioned because they felt that there might be some pushback if they were noticed. And it was so pleasing to know that, no, that's not what this was about. They wanted us to be a part of this, to learn from us as much as we wanted to learn from them. And that was really amazing to us. And so I want to talk about a particular experience I had. It was funded, it was driven through the Heisman Simons Foundation. It was California Leads, And her name is Malia. And we talk about facilitating, when Margarita said how important facilitators are extremely important. Malia, and I know there's two Malias, and I forget this Malia's last name, so please excuse me. But I know my other Malia is on the call, so she would know. But she was phenomenal because what she did was she was like the in-between person between the funders and the parents. Some of us will call parent leaders, others community organizers, but at the end of the day, none of us were from California. That was part of the deal. And we wanted to find the best way to help the community organizations on the ground in California to be able to work with funders. And there was a grant that was going to be given out to a few of these organizations. And we were really surprised, and I'll tell you why, because a lot of us pushed back. One thing about grant, what we realized, a lot of people can write great grants and you can look phenomenal on paper, but we wanted to give it our all because we were saying we're helping a community, and sometimes you can hurt a community just as much as you can help a community. And the ask of the parents was, what do you mean we're not going to be able to interview them? Like, we don't just want to see you on paper. We want to be able to talk to you. We want to be able to know. And Malia at first said, I don't know if you're going to get that. I'll try. And we were so amazed that when she came back, she said, yes, you're going to be able to talk to them. And I'm telling you, again, we were surprised. And the people that we thought that were going to get it on paper, who looked fabulous, were actually the ones who we felt were going to do after doing the real interviewing and going through it. And a lot of us are a little OCD like me. I didn't just read the grant. I went online, I researched, I wanted to see if the faces that you said that you were helping, you were actually doing. And it came out that some people just took stats that they got that's open to the public and had the resources. And that's a big thing when it comes to your grassroots organizations. You know, you may not have the funding to be able to hire someone to write a great grant, but that doesn't mean that you're not doing the work that your community needs. And that's another thing that funders need to be aware of. And I always say, like, get to know the community that you're in, get to know the community that you want to work with, because just because a grantee may not have the greatest writing skills, that doesn't mean that they're not doing the best of the work. And it was a really, really great moment. Malia had time for us to talk as parents. We met each other through Zoom. We had our own special dates just to talk, not even about the project, just to talk to see how we were feeling. Because at some point, you know, it gets a little overwhelming, as I'm sure you all know as grantors, how overwhelming the process can be. And so imagine if you guys feel overwhelmed, imagine the organizations who are looking for the grants, how we feel. And a lot of times feeling like we're not heard. And that experience, I don't think I will ever forget, because it spoke volumes to me that, wow, they're really trying to break barriers. We said from the beginning that we wanted this toolkit to be ongoing, alive, constantly going, so we can make amendments to it, because just like times change, you have to change with the times. Nothing can stay stagnant. We wanted this to be a continuous relationship with funders, and it's amazing to see that they also want to have that continuous relationship with us. So
Thank you guys so much, Margarita and Sarah. I do want to, we're running short on time, and I do want to leave time for a couple of questions. And so I'm wondering, drawing on your own experience, what are some concrete ways that funders can try to mitigate the inherent power imbalance? I've heard a couple of people speak to that so far. What role can they play in the funder grantee partnership and making sure that that imbalance is not there?
So Rose, at our organization, at the William Casper Graustein Memorial Fund, we try to be explicit about that when we're meeting with our grantee partners and just say it. And make sure, like right away while we're building that relationship, that we understand that this is a power dynamic. We want to build a relationship with you where we're actually creating together and you're able to push back when you don't agree with something. That we are very explicit about that. And we're hoping it works.
Oh, awesome. Sarah, you got any thoughts around that?
Yes, I would just say barriers. Be what's the word I'm looking for? Be intentional on making sure that the barriers that a lot of these organizations that you are funding, try your best to break them, listen to them, hear what they have to say. That's a big part also. I guess you would connect that with the power dynamic. But a lot of the program officers, you know, unless you know your organization, get to know them, get to know why they need these things and why they're afraid. Some of them are afraid to actually talk to you because they feel there are too many barriers. And I think funders need to understand that, you know, you have amazing organizations, just like you have amazing funders. And I think everyone that took time to be on this call shows just how amazing you guys are, because you want to learn from us just as much as we want to learn from you, and hopefully continue to get more funders and more parent organizations involved in this beautiful relationship that we're building.
And I do
Absolutely.
want to add to that, that also one of the ways that the power dynamics, I remember when we were doing the FFL budget, we were very intentional about, we should pay the parents as equally as the consultants for their time and for the money, and making sure that we were meeting at times that the parents can also meet to try to mitigate that power dynamic within the FFL group. Mhm.
Yeah, Margarita, I want to be fair. So I asked Mike this question, and Sarah, feel free to chime in after. But what's the one piece of advice that you would give to a foundation that's just starting to think about this, that wants to build those better relationships with their parent grantees?
I think that for us, what we did was take the time to actually be in conversation with community. We went out to community. We're in constant conversation with our grantee partners, and not so much depending on reports and applications, but actually be in conversation with the people that are doing the work and in dialogue and learning. So I think that for a foundation that is taking the first step, I think sometimes I know I can do this. I don't want to take a risk in because I don't want to hurt somebody or something, but just not to be afraid of risk and be explicit about that. Just, you know, I'm trying to do this way, and if it doesn't work for you, let me know, and things like that. Building those type of explicit relationships.
Absolutely. Thank you. Sarah, you got any thoughts around that from a
I
parent
think the
perspective?
key, absolutely, I think the key word here is trust. So often we as parents are told that, you know, their help is needed and blah, blah, blah. And then what happens is they take our suggestions, they take our solutions, and all of a sudden we're not needed anymore. And that is the reason why, again, there's so much pushback, and there's that like, wait a minute, should we really get involved here? Do we really want to, can we really trust them? Because that has happened to us so many times. So that's another barrier. Like, I feel like trust is the key word here. And Margarita broke it down. You know, if you're asking for our help, just because we're parents, people think that, I said that the wrong way because I'm a parent, and I don't want to say just because we always say we have a PhD in our parents. You know, it doesn't matter what degree everyone else may hold, but as parents and parent leaders and all these phenomenal families in this whole country that we're trying to fight for and advocate for, and you funders are also trying to do the same, just remember that the people who know their families are the best are the actual families. And they are the ones with the knowledge in that sense. You funders are the ones with the knowledge of how to go about to access those resources. So if you can just remember that building trust comes first, once you build the trust of the family, oh my gosh, the race has already won. And I'll end it
Awesome.
that way.
Thank you so much. I want to invite Mona and Mike back in as well, as we're running out of time. There was not enough time for this amazing discussion. What's the one word that you all want to leave with folks as we move forward? What is your hope for what this tool will accomplish? And do it in one word.
Boldness.
Awesome.
We had Rose, I say change.
Change. Awesome. Yes.
I'm with, well, inspire.
Awesome. Sarah, what's your one word?
I think I said it already, trust.
Trust. Absolutely. Listen, I want to thank you all, this amazing panel. I know we didn't have enough time I can hear all the passion to dive into all the things that you wanted to say, but we appreciate you coming and sharing and being transparent. And this is an opportunity for everyone that's on the call, and we're so grateful for you taking your time out today to join us. And we want to make sure that you stay plugged in to FFL. We want to make sure on the screen you'll see the email, you'll see ways to visit their site, you'll see ways to get in touch with them. There's a QR code there. And we want you all to really consider taking advantage of this opportunity to be, and for those who are interested in becoming members or learning more about the tool or becoming a part of the learning community, please reach out. We want folks to please don't forget to take the survey. The link is the first one on the screen there. Let us know how this webinar went, and be honest. The truth always makes us better. I am so grateful to you all for joining us here today. God bless you. I'm going to turn it over to Raina if there's any additional information. You all are so beautiful. God bless.
Thank you so much. I'm inspired and amazed and have already been checking some of my own assumptions and things that I think that I know about parent engagement. So I really appreciate this conversation. We still have time left. Do we want to open up for some general questions? And then later, we thought we'd take an opportunity for any ECFC members that are coming to our May meeting to talk a little bit about how we might think about this tool in terms of the parent engagement work we're going to see at our meeting. But I'll just open up and see if there are questions in the chat. I'm sure that there are lots of, I saw some things pop in, some comments, but does anyone want to start us off with a question?
I see a question in the chat. I don't know who wants to answer that.
I was just flipping through looking for a.
Go for it, Sarah. What's the question?
It says, thank you for sharing today. It's by Rachel. Please don't hate me if I mess up your last name. How about I just say it's from Rachel? It says, thank you for sharing today. I'm curious about any concrete strategies for supporting parents who get involved and maybe aren't jumping right in right away.
You want to answer that, Sarah?
I mean, I was about to say, I think that takes us back to trust. It's not just a one and done. You have to get to know the parent, get to know the families, let them know that you really care. Also, listen. Listening is a big thing. Every parent may have similar struggles, but no parent has the same. Struggles are the exact same. And so within their communities, every community looks different. So I think it would depend on what it is you're trying to achieve, what goals. And I think taking time to just listen and hear and you know, just express how much you really want to help them and to succeed in this, whatever goal it is that you're trying to do with them.
Yeah, and if I could take off my facilitator hat, moderator hat for a moment and jump in, I think that's an excellent question, because there has over the years been so much mistrust established. And so people have felt used, or, their lived experience devalued by just becoming a part of another report that a lot of people got rich off of, and they saw no benefit to it. And so that same process that happened to destroy that trust has to happen to rebuild it. And Sarah said something that was really key, not only getting to know the individuals, which is excellent, but getting to know that community, understanding the dynamic, understand how their dynamic measures with your ask, understanding what the goals are toward, because most of the time we've all got the same goals. The way we think about it might be different, and the way we process it might be different, but having those conversations to see, first of all, whether or not you have the same goals and what it takes for each entity to get to that goal, as opposed to just creating some hoops that seem fun to jump through. Finding out really what the capacity of that organization is, really what their needs are, and how you can be of support within reason. Muna, I want to leave time for you to take that if you want to.
I think you cover it, and I could just repeat the last part of cultures. So understand who you're speaking with, and where it's in many cases that bride that not sharing with your need is in many cases where some of them are not coming with their wholesome. I always said in New America, like, bring your whole self. I'm like, just leave some of it. You know what I mean? So there are so many times when we meeting with funders, and I feel really like so uncomfortable. I feel like I become like somebody who is begging to almost in a lower level of. So it is also culture. So just really make sure who you to build that relationship so you can understand the cultures.
As you know, I was thinking about, I was just meeting with a parent organizer that meets with parents, and it was in a group, and I would think to myself, like, what would I do if I didn't see one of the parents joining the meeting? And I thought to myself, I know, like, right away I would talk to them, be explicit. What type of support is it that you need to be able to contribute to the meeting? And just ask. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to Rachel's question, for something specific, something concrete in terms of strategy, is to fully be transparent. If there are things that your organization can't do, don't come in with false promises to say, hey, we really want to accomplish ABC. However, we have a limited budget. We're only allowed this, or our higher ups won't allow us to do ABC or EFG. And people appreciate, that's a big part of what helps the trust grow, is if you're transparent. Here's what I can do. Here's what I can't do. And then allow them, without being punitive, to do that same thing, to express their boundaries, their barriers, or why or what they can or can't do. I think that those are concrete things that always help people feel more comfortable about coming in and being invested in work.
And by the end of the day, we are all human. We are not angels. We are not saying to you, parents don't make mistakes. They always know what they're doing. There are, we are all in this space where we can make many mistakes. So just if you feel like you did your best, there's something really going on, just be honest with that. Don't feel guilty, because that's not also moving the work. If you feel guilty about, I don't want to say anything to that bad, and there's nothing going, have also that honest conversation of this is a bigger than just me and you.
Yeah, I think back to what I said about making sure that we come to parent leaders with something really concrete and tangible to work on in the first place. If there is a lull in communications, I guarantee you it is not for a lack of perspective on parent leaders' part. It is probably a miscommunication on your part, or a sense of uncomfortableness, or a breaking of trust that needs to be interrogated. Again, a huge shout out to getting facilitators to help you work through those pain points. But yeah, I have not found that it is for lack of perspective. Usually it's usually like, needing to work through something, or sort of rephrase something, or get it, more into something that makes a little more sense on our end.
Well, thank you. Are there any other questions from our audience? Anything we want to ask our parent and funder co-creators while we have them in the space with us? Excellent. I think you've given all of us on this webinar a lot to think about. We really appreciate the opportunity to be in this space with you. We have one more question, and it's a good one. How are these great funders bringing other funders along to support and invest in parents?
So I know that collectively, Funders for Family Leadership is always really trying to, and I'm not on the advisory committee anymore, but I know Margarita is, and a lot of wonderful people, always trying to bring folks along. And one thing that we really wanted to do as a group is understand that the work itself is the result. Like we need to be tracking on the funder side what we're doing, like building case studies. I know some of the folks on this call have put together case studies on how they've, incorporated this tool and others into forwarding their work. But really, as I said about our evaluation work that we're just getting started at RWJF, we really are trying to understand that we don't want to blink in 5 years and all of a sudden we're one foundation that's really, really good at doing this. We want to bring folks along, and we want to share the hard parts of it. We want to share where we were getting really messy on stipends for meetings, and we couldn't figure out the right number, and we didn't want to go too high or too low or something like that. So we're really trying to think of really that sort of really nuts and bolts stuff that we wouldn't maybe always be reporting on, like the sort of internal behind the scenes stuff, and really trying to figure out how we explain that to the field. So we're working on that right now.
Is it okay if I say something about that from a parent's perspective, from what I've seen?
Absolutely.
I think that it's phenomenal that the funders have been inviting us to come to certain workshops that they're doing, or conventions, so that we could speak and the other funders in the room can hear how we are all working together. I think that is phenomenal. I know that, we talk on Zoom all the time, but when we all got together in Austin this past summer, or was it summer, October? I don't remember. October, right? Fall, right? It was amazing. It felt like family. It felt like we had known each other for so long, and just getting to see the human part, but we've always been talking. And that's how you start to build. And I think that other funders may have seen that in our workshops. I know we got good reviews on our workshops. And I think that is another way of how the funders are bringing other funders together by inviting us as parents to hear our stories, because no one can tell our stories better than us.
Absolutely. And another way that parents are engaging other funders is not all of the folks who fund us are a part of Funders for Family Leadership. And so everywhere that we go, as I speak in different places across the country, I'm always promoting and encouraging other funders to tap into Funders for Family Leadership, take a look at the toolkit, think about how they're interacting with folks. So parents are promoting this too.
Yeah, and we're trying to be very intentional as a funder to share our practices with other funders, even if that means picking up the phone and just go have lunch with another organization or foundation that funds the same things as us. And we start building relationships the same way that we're building relationship with the parent organizations, hope with other funders.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, well, I think that we will conclude our presentation. If you have questions about this webinar or want to learn more about Funders for Family Leadership, we'll be sending out links to their website and the reflection tool, as well as this recording in the next day or two, so you can revisit or share it with others. And thank you so much for joining us. It was really wonderful to have you. It was really inspiring, and we appreciate you taking the time to have these conversations with us.